welcome back to the Friends of Zeus Swapcast. Tonight we wanted to try something different. Jeff Macolino. For those of you, the 50 people that listen to the show, the only Friend of Zeus that's on the show tonight is not an official. I mean, of course, you're official Friend of Zeus, but you're not official.
A 5-timers jacket.
Yeah, dude. We've got swag. I can send you the link. Friends of Zeus hoodie. It's pretty nice. It is. It's actually really nice. Warm. The logo on the back has stayed for like a year and a half now, as long as we've had it. But anyway, so again, the true Friend of Zeus who decided because I just needed to pod tonight. Like the rest of the guys are doing their holiday things, and I get it. That's fine. That's fine. And we usually do headier stuff. We're talking about Hamas and Israel, and sometimes not even that. Sometimes aliens, but generally a little.
I passed out on one of those aliens podcasts.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, so we decided we would try something different and get people maybe from your show come listen to ours, and maybe one out of the 50 from mine will switch over to yours and leave us forever.
No, don't switch over. But to be clear, there's a part 1 to this podcast, right? On the Jeff Macolino podcast. You can find it on anywhere you find podcasts, and the YouTube channel. I'm sure Zeus will make sure is linked in the
exactly
in the show description.
Yes, and soon apparently I'll be on IMDb as well, which is pretty cool.
Part of the perks, man.
Yep. Anyway, in the last episode of the Jeff Macolino show, we were talking about an instance in which Jeff Macolino had been arrested and had been put into a cell of sorts. So if you'd like to kind of just give a brief recap of what you were talking about on that one, pretty brief though, because if they're going to go back and listen to the other one, they don't want to listen to it twice.
Yeah,
but
I'll be brief. There was it was a holding cell of about 15 guys. The transsexual prostitute kept going back and forth again. Sign of the times. There was one other white guy. He was wearing a white wife beater. He had long hair, and I didn't like the way he looked at me. And I had, by the way, I'm sitting there and I had the I'm about to shit my pants look on my face. Like, I understood it. I was petrified. This was Labor Day weekend. So, and this was Saturday. So I'm like, I'm going to be in jail Saturday, Sunday, Monday until Tuesday. They can possibly let me go. Yeah. I'm going to be spending 4 days in jail for this innocuous thing that I'm not going to comment about. But I
want to know what it is so bad.
I will say this. You know what my charge was? I will say this.
Public drunkenness?
No. You know what my charge was? And there's even a funny backstory to this. My charge was resisting arrest without violence. That's why I got arrested. I resisted arrest without violence.
No, don't arrest
and that's
me.
why
No.
I got arrested. The hilarious part is less than 2 months prior to this incident, a New Orleans Saints player who my preferred football team got arrested because he was driving in a gated community on a moped or something, a scooter, and they pulled him over because he wasn't supposed to be there, and they ended up arresting him because he didn't answer their questions and was angry at them pulling him over in, I think, the neighborhood where he lived. But so I go on Twitter and say, resisting arrest without violence. That's another way of saying arrested, being black in public.
Okay.
And then guess who's in jail? Not even 60 days later for the same charge as me, with all these people, and a couple of these guys were looking at me like I was a sheep, like they were the wolves, I was the sheep. and one of these brothers up here turned and looked at me, and he just had this big smile, and he said, "Yeah, I'm in for domestic. That bitch can't spend the rest of the day without me. Hey, brother, what you in for? And he nods his head back towards me like this. And I'm like, oh no, I know where this is going. And then this other brother says, they got me on possession, but that bullshit. I'm going to be out of here before tomorrow. That's bullshit. Hey, white boy, what you in here for? And I'm like, oh no. And I'm like, well, the cops beat the crap out of me. And I didn't think they could do that for a white person. So I don't really know what the answer is to the question. All of the black people burst out laughing. Like that at that answer. This was 10 years ago. I didn't think the cops could do that to a white person. I turned and looked at the white person. He had the I'm about to shit my pants look. Like he was confident before then. He was like, no.
Don't ask me why I'm here.
Yeah, no. Yeah, he lost his ally. He thought I was his ally. I'm like, no, man, I'm not your ally. So yeah, no, it was, but we also got a cop who had to come and scream, "Hey, you guys, quiet down!" And I'm like, I just killed in a holding cell. I just made a whole. I made all these criminals laugh except for that one, but he was racist, so he doesn't count. So I'm like, hey, this comedy thing's kind of fun.
So
I prefer performing in front of black crowds as a comic.
Well, I like to think that in that community they just appreciate humor more. Like their life is in a lot of cases not full of jokes and humor. It's full of dodging this and dodging that, like poor treatment. That when you get into a place where everybody's laughing, it's easier. If your bar's set so low, at
least at our ages, I think that's the case.
Yeah, I think when the bar is set so low, a good laugh is so much. I mean, it's therapeutic for everybody, but I think even more so.
I worry about nowadays a little bit with the victimization, like being raised to be like, we're victims, we got to fight against I'm like, I don't know if that's good, but it's not for me to say, sure, but
I get the sentiment. I get it.
But in fairness, I give the same speech to my kids. If you don't need a cop and you see a cop, get the fuck away from the cop. Like,
right.
I don't trust police. I don't like police. In fair, I won't talk about what led to me being arrested, but I will say I needed to pee, and they wanted me to answer questions before I went to the bathroom, and they fucking threw me into a wall, headfirst into a concrete wall. They separated my shoulder, pulling me.
Wow.
And then the resisting arrest was after they tugged my shoulder out of this socket, I pulled my arm out and went, ah! And that was resisting arrest. It was not with violence. Obviously, it was without violence. So my entire crime was I got physically assaulted, and when they separated my shoulder, I pulled my arm away. So that's how the police function. That's how the police function with a white guy. Right? So it's like, it's not police are abusive people who sometimes do good things. Sure. Many of them do good things. Most of them do good things.
I'd say 95% of them do good things,
right.
But it's those.
But these cops, well, I don't even think these were bad cops, but these cops slammed my face into a concrete wall, separated my shoulder, and when I pulled my arm away from them, and because the fact I was bigger than them, because I'm 6'2", and on the police report they said I was 210, but I was 240 at the time, so I appreciate the not body shaming by the police.
What it comes down to, it's much like, and this will sound off base for a second, but then I think you'll get where I'm coming from. It's much like in Israel and Gaza right now. How do you come back from every day worrying about a bomb going off or a missile hitting you and not be fucking on the edge all the time? So this is where
I think you're on the right path, but here's where I'm going to twist it on you. How many black people get killed by the police every year? Like 30.
Yes, yeah, I know where you're going with this. The year
So they have the reaction like they need a bombshell, but they don't. They don't. Like, it is very, very rare that anyone gets killed by the police. And I hate the police. I just said that. But to be on that kind of, we're under attack. Well, okay, more white people die by police than black people, first of all.
But there are more white people, so
Sure. Percentage-wise,
the
there is more black.
The point that I was going to get to, and I don't know the exact numbers, but and I'm assuming that is correct. I could be wrong, but the year that George Floyd died was at 21, 20, whatever. More white people were killed by cops than African Americans.
Yeah, every year they are.
And with the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, he didn't shoot a single black person. Everybody that he shot was white.
Yeah, 2 of them were.
They turned it into this big
offenders.
BLM thing. I'm not a fan of the term BLM. I'm a fan of the concept behind it. Black Lives Matter, but I also think every life matters. And I know there are people that argue, but you haven't been persecuted, but fine, I understand
Neither.
But we just had a black president, and now we have a black vice president.
Yeah.
The very next election, or no, I'm sorry, one separation with Trump.
Between, yeah.
But
because they stole it from the Snow White vice president.
But the point is we're making progress. Now she's a fucking.
Well, I would like to think we're making progress as a society, but politically we're not. Because Barack Obama was the biggest race monger of anyone, which was. You remember the Trayvon Martin thing?
Yes, George
Zimmerman, who was a very brown Hispanic man. By the way, it was not a white, but it was painted as white man murders an innocent black kid. Well, the black kid was going to murder the Hispanic man. Now, the Hispanic man was also a piece of shit. It was Here's the thing that bothers me. I'll say this about George Floyd and Derek Chauvin, although different situation. And I don't disagree with Chauvin being in jail.
No, however, not at all.
When 2 bad people meet, bad things happen.
Yeah.
Trayvon Martin was a piece of shit, and so was George Zimmerman, and one of them ended up killing the other one. When I'm not putting this on Kyle Rittenhouse, but when Kyle Rittenhouse met a child rapist, a domestic abuser, and another criminal, 3 criminals, and they attacked him, and he shot them. That was 2 people with at least bad ideals meeting, and one came out on top. So George Floyd was a horrible human being. That's the thing. If you look at his history, he is a piece of garbage.
Pregnant women. Yeah.
And he also died of an overdose of
fentanyl.
Fentanyl.
Yeah.
The cop was still a piece of shit and deserves to be punished. George Floyd doesn't deserve murals, by the way. He's a piece of shit too. That's the thing that bothers me, is when the thing in this country that turns eyes are when 2 garbage humans clash and one wins, and everyone has to pick side. No, they can both be pieces of garbage. You don't
Yeah.
have to pick them. You can say they both suck. George Zimmerman was the worthless piece of garbage, but he was going to die if he didn't shoot Trayvon Martin, who was bashing his head against the street.
Yeah, well, and
They're both garbage.
yeah, to the George Floyd thing, I've always felt that there were suspicious things about that. Like, so first of all, the cops got called to the scene because of a counterfeit 20.
Yep.
If anybody knows anything about counterfeit, you don't go after one counterfeit 20. You go after
don't kneel on their neck either. Right?
Yeah. You go after a suitcase of counterfeit 20s, because one counterfeit 20, man, the
police don't respond to that.
Yeah, no. And it wouldn't be the police that would respond to it anyway. It would be the Secret Service, because they actually are a branch of the Treasury, and that's what they do. They do
right. That's a Treasury issue, not a city police.
Yeah. Right. So that's fishy. Also, the fact that apparently, and unless this has been disproven, Siobhan and Floyd were bouncers at the same, I want to say a strip club or something, like 17 years earlier. And I'm sorry, Siobhan is a very remarkable looking person, and so is George Floyd. How they would not have recognized each other is insane. So
I think they knew.
I had a theory, and you'll like this. This is just a theory. This is not fact, but and this would make a great movie. So Floyd could have been a CI for these guys, and he's the weak link, because right before he did that, he was doing some videos about positivity and all this stuff. We'll call that legit, whatever. Well, we'll just say it's legit for the purposes of this story.
Sure.
So Siobhan is shady, probably using his CI and doing something heinous, and the CI knows about it, being George Floyd. And so they set up this call for this one counterfeit $20 bill, and then put their foot on his neck. They didn't expect everybody to be around, but then they're in it. So what do? And I find it also very suspicious that I know at least one of the other cops was Asian, and I'm confident that one of the other cops was black. And they sat there and let it happen. So my question is, were they all in on this, and they were trying to take him out publicly, but not as publicly as it got? And that's where they are. I mean, that's not a cockamamie plot line to what may have really happened.
No, and frankly, I don't know. My thing with it was the timing of it was during COVID, right? Before presidential election.
It was actually before COVID. It was at the.
No, it was after. It was June. It was the summer of COVID.
Okay.
So we were shielded for 3 months.
Okay.
So this is when people were prone to outrage. But even then, a certain orange man who I think we both detest was.
I don't like the person, but I take him over Biden at this point.
Yeah, well, he was going to win re-election. Even with COVID, they were trying to do all the shutdowns, and frankly, the president should have been able to stop some of that, and he didn't. But that's
no. He's an asshole. He's an asshole, but he's a better politician than Biden. That's all I'll say. I don't.
But at that point, even after 3 months of government shutdown or societal shutdown, Florida was opening up. By the way, so we were cool. But they started these riots in all the cities, and that is when the public sentiment went away from Trump and towards Biden. I think this was all a very staged situation to assure. And look, I don't even think it has anything to do with Trump, by the way.
No,
I
not at
think
all.
Trump is as crooked as all of them. I don't know. I still haven't put the pieces together, but
I would say
it's
no more crooked than any of them. And in some ways, I like my asshole to present himself as an asshole. You know what
at
I
least he's
mean?
not lying about that.
Yeah, okay. So where I had a problem was all the Twitters or the tweets, whatever they call them. I don't use X, so I don't know what they call them anymore. Now they call them triple X's. I don't know. But I
I'll have
never,
to check that out.
I never liked him as a human being. I have come around a little bit to certain things that are facts that cannot be argued. There was no wars while he was there. That's huge.
Well, he didn't start any new wars.
Right. That's huge. That hasn't happened in fucking like 10 cycles of
I think
president.
like Eisenhower or Kennedy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it goes way back. And no, Kennedy was, well, that was Bay of Pigs, but Vietnam was it right after or right?
Oh,
It was right
yeah.
after.
No,
So
JFK was pretty anti-war.
yeah, so there's a lot to be said for that. And he's not pro Hamas. He's like, you know what? You want to fucking cause problems? I'm gonna fucking cause a problem for you. He's not Reagan. He wants to be Reagan. He wants to make his daddy proud. He's trying to be Reagan, which is maybe a positive thing, but I just don't like him. Here's how it is. You're clearly not an Obama guy. I kind of liked Obama because first black president. I mean, just that alone, he pushed us forward a huge way. If that was the only thing he did, I'm kind of for it. He was charismatic. He seemed to be far more altruistic than I think he actually was.
He could have ended the whole narrative of racism in this country. And instead, he stoked the flames. And by the way,
but you know what? He didn't stoke the flames while he was
did.
president.
Yes, he did. Trayvon Martin was during his presidency.
Yeah, but I don't
stoked the flames. He stoked the flames.
Maybe
then.
a little. Okay, fair enough.
That was my biggest gripe with Obama was, look, we're past it. And by the way, I hate to say this, and what African Americans are what 12-13% of the population, and whites are 60-something%. Yeah, I guarantee you, if you did a count, not a percentage, a count, more black people in this country hate white people than white people hate black people. And that's 13 to like 70% of people. I guarantee you there are more in this 13% than in this 70%. I'm not talking about percentage.
Right, I understand.
Because the percentage of white people who hate black people is probably 0.0 something.
Listen,
the
man,
amount of black people who hate white people is arguably 50+%.
And
that
it's
is Obama's fault.
I bear no ill will towards anybody based on,
of course,
the chemical.
No white people are racist. Very few white people are racist.
Well, here's the thing: like when they talk about like neo-Nazis and white supremacists in the United States, it's like 0.00001%.
Right.
They are fucking find. You know what? Find a fucking white supremacist in St. Pete. That's the one. He's the one. That's the one in St. Pete. He goes to a meeting in fucking Brooksville.
It would take me years to find that one.
Right.
That's the thing. But I could find a black person who hates white people in 30 minutes.
And again, that's sad to me because I really, except for Aboriginals, but that's just because they look weird. It has nothing to do with the tone of their skin. They got weird hair and noses, and they're just weird. And they got that stick, and they spin this thing around. Fucking Australians are fucking wacky.
Oh, Australians, okay.
Aboriginals. But but actually Aboriginal is what we call them
Yes, yeah.
in Australia, but Aboriginal actually it's like Bushmen of the Kiwahara. It's there's the people in San Blas off of Costa Rica. Aboriginals are just maybe wow, this is a touchy one. I don't know how to say this. Aboriginals are just they're more pure in their genetic line. Like the tree doesn't have as many branches.
Oh, they're inbreds.
To
I
not
said what you didn't want to say.
not get this whole episode canceled, I'm gonna say no, they're not inbreds, but there's less diversity in their group would be a better way of putting it. So yeah, anyway, I love to make fun of Aboriginals.
They're kissing cousins. That's a restaurant close to me.
I actually think Aboriginals are fucking cool as shit. The ones in Australia and everywhere, but the ones in Australia, I think they're cool as shit. They got the Australian accent. They're black. They're just everything all wrapped up into one. They're fucking great. The rain sticks, everything. I joke about it, but I actually think they're fucking pissers. The Crocodile Dundee movies, all the Aboriginal guys in there are hilarious. I got no beef with them. But yeah, I don't have it in me. It's like not in my makeup to be so stupid that I actually bear ill will towards somebody because they have more melanin in their skin.
Well,
it's ludicrous.
It's absolutely the most ridiculous thing in the world because so my daughter goes to a very African American school.
And by the way, aren't you're not straight up Caucasian, right? Macolino, is that Italian or is that?
Yeah, it's 75% Italian.
Okay.
I've got 9% African and Iranian, according to 23andMe.
All right.
That's like my second. I think it's my second most prominent thing.
Right.
So the funny thing is, my daughter goes to a very diverse school, and they don't. She's not white there. She's like, no, we got our Jewish friend, the black girl. I'm the Italian, and then we got the white girl.
I would be so happy if everybody just fucking got along, but
they do, and I do think that's. I think so. I asked my daughter because she's in 8th grade right now, so just finishing middle school. I'm like, how many kids in your 3 years of middle school said something about pronouns? And she's like, one girl did, and we all made fun of her so much.
Yeah, it's like,
funny. So I don't think these kids nowadays are buying into this bullshit.
No, they're fucking smart. My 14-year-old, hopefully whenever I get to come down to Florida, because I mean, dude, where I go to Florida is like Curlew and 19. I'm not far. I won't be far from you at all.
20
minutes. We'll be doing some drinking. We'll be doing some live drinking.
We're gonna have to figure out recording.
Yeah, absolutely. Carry around a video camera. But my oldest, who hates me now, everything I say he fucking argues with. I love him. He saved my life. I was going down a path of partying all the time and probably getting divorced to this
is your podcast, remember, Zeus.
Right. Anyway, leave it in. Fuck it. But he hates everything that I say, and I love him. He saved my life. I was gonna be a fucking alcoholic asshole, and he came along and brightened my world and made me happy. So it does hurt my heart that he hates me now, but I'm pretty sure I hated my excuse me. I hated my stepfather for the longest time, and he was my dad.
But
and I think we'll come around. We'll come around. He's gonna make that mistake that I enlighten him, and he gets that I love him. But right now we're both like, okay, I'm like constantly like, okay, you're gonna argue, so we're done. Let's not. I like tonight he argued with me about what was it? Excuse me. he he was like he went outside, and it's cold up here right now, and he went to school. He's on the basketball team. He's a shooter, man. He's 14, 6'3", and
Damn.
he's on junior varsity already, and everybody says that he's one of the best on the team. And I'm his dad, so I'm a little more critical, but I can see the talent now. But anyway, so he goes out without a jacket, and then he comes home, and the wife's there, and she's like, "Why didn't you send him out with a jacket?" It's like, because every time that I'm ready to take him somewhere, I got to wait down in the car for him because he's got to play another game on his iPad or whatever, just take up more time. And by the time he gets out of the car, I'm like, I'm not even paying attention at that point. So if he doesn't have a jacket, I'm not noticing because he gets in the back seat and that's it. So he's like, I'm like, dude, you got to go out with a jacket. And he's like, well, you got to come pick me up anyway. I'm like, yeah, but dude, what if I got into a car accident and I couldn't pick you up? Right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, that's such a stupid argument. I'm like, what? Car accidents don't happen? And he's like, it's just a dumb argument. I'm like, so, and I'm old school, Dad. I'm like, so I'm dumb. You calling me dumb? Is that what we're saying? Dad's dumb? I'm like,
that's amazing.
And he's like, no, I'm not calling you dumb. I'm saying that's a dumb argument. I'm like, by saying my argument is dumb, you're saying I am dumb. Because why would a smart person use a dumb argument? And
I'll side with your son on that.
But you get where I'm coming from. It's like
yeah. As a father, no, that's a fuck you. Do what I say. Don't dare question me.
We can't do that anymore. There's this like entitlement with these kids now, where like I can't say stop being an asshole, and it has the same effect as when I was a kid. If I was told stop being an asshole, now is a red flag. I need to chill the fuck out because I'm about to get smacked in the mouth. But we can't smack him in the mouth anymore. And I don't want to smack him in the mouth, but there is something to be said for a little fear.
I think to me, I think things are coming back together, and especially me being in Florida, I think gives me an earlier view of how things are playing out a little bit, because I tell my kids stop being an asshole, and like my son will be like, I'm sorry. and my daughter will be like, all right. So I feel like I have a little more. I'm a very loving father. Let's be clear. But it's like just I'm not taking bullshit. Like I wasn't born yesterday. Like I'm not.
No,
and it's weird. It is very weird. And I know I'm young. 37-year-old raising a 13-year-old is also. And I'm the older parent in the relationship.
Yeah.
That's bizarre because I understand it. It's like, oh, wait, I was doing the same thing at your age. It was just less traceable.
Look at me. I'm 53. I got a 14-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Yeah, that seems so much harder to me. Like, at least me, my daughter once, when I was driving, I'll tell you this. My daughter, when I was driving past downtown St. Pete, and I'm like, oh, damn, look at her. Tell my son to check out the chick. I don't think I should have been telling my then 10-year-old to check out the bosomy woman on the side of the road. And my daughter chimes in, she's probably closer to my age than yours, Dad.
So what I wanted to get at, I kind of went away from it. So in his asshole nature, there's these moments of brilliance. And yes, I did call my son an asshole because it's all right to treat them like assholes. Because if you don't
call him an asshole.
Listen, Jordan Peterson says it best. If you don't fucking hate your kids every once in a while, you're sending them out into the world that will fucking make sure they know they're assholes.
Yeah, they'll chew them up and spit them out.
I'd rather be the enemy for the next 5 years, and then later on he realizes that I taught him to dodge some stuff. But so anyway, on the binary, non-binary thing, I was asking him about it one day, and every once in a while we'll have some relatively cerebral conversations. And I said, "So, do you have all that going on in the school?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I go, "So, what do you think about it?" He goes, "I think they're all emos."
It's not the worst
I
answer
think
I've
there's some
heard.
insight there because they really are. I mean, it's just emos with a different hair color.
Yeah, that
And
my daughter actually said something similar to that. Now that I think about it.
I thought it was brilliant. So, because we gotta wrap up soon. I want to tell you my jail story.
Yes, yes, please.
Mine.
It's been a hanging Chad the whole time.
So a dangling Chad even. So my jail story, and I've got a few, and I don't think any of them don't involve alcohol. But this one's my favorite because this is like me now would go back and smack me then right in the mouth and go, "What are you fucking doing? This is where you made his mistake." Not that I'm more criminal now, that I'm just smarter and I'm more observant. And probably part of it is the psych mind. I just analyze things differently now. But so this was a tough time in my life. My parents had like literally moved while I was away for the weekend, and I come back and nobody's there. So I'm working for this company, which I was kind of part owner of. I was a carpet cleaning company, and I was getting all the appointments for them.
Where were you sleeping? Or was that
That
part of the
I'm
story?
getting to that. So I was part owner in the company, and they do you know Largo, Almerton?
Yeah, my son goes to school right off
Okay, so
Almerton.
there's this place called Wild Acres Road. You either know it or you don't, but there's a big strip, like there's 50 different office spaces there that people like. Generally, you can drive a car in there for like that kind of stuff, like so like mechanics, carpet cleaners, artists, blah blah blah. And I was living in my office at the time, and so the guys I was working with, and I was like their income because I would get the appointments and they would go and clean the carpets, and I was sleeping in the office. Right. This was because I didn't have a place to stay.
Rudy, Rudy.
Yeah, I was Rudy. I was fucking Rudy. Um, and so they hired this one guy because he was in just as bad a straits, and he's living in there too. Which I'm like, fuck, man. You know, you have apartments, and you're letting me live here. You should be letting me sleep on the couch. I was an idiot, and I was very passive, and all these other things. I've changed quite a bit. So anyway,
Sure,
one
yeah.
night. It's me, this guy, his name was Angel. He was a piece of fucking shit. But I liked him at the time. He seemed fine. He liked to drink, and we're young and blah, blah, blah. And then these two lesbians that owned the bank, you know, the garage with an office above it next to us. And we're all drinking, and we ran out of beer. None of us had any money. So we're like, let's go do a dash and ditch or whatever you call it. You know the term? Dodge and what? Yeah.
Diamond Dash.
Diamond dash. Yeah. So this is so funny. So we plan it in our drunkenness because we're already drunk. Now we're just going to steal beer. So we go like a mile down the road, and we go into this like, you know, Sitco, like, you know, stop and shop, get your gas, get your beer, blah blah blah. And my so he and the one lesbian girl, they go in the back, and I'm like, "Hey, look at me! Hey, look at me! Hey, look at me!"
Real distraction.
No, I'm like talking to them. Hey, can I get a pack of cigarettes? I'm like trying to get their attention, and they run out the door. And my dumbass, who's like, "Hey, look at me! Hey, look at me! Hey, look at me!" goes, "I don't know what's going on." And then I run and get into the car with them that they just got in. So about 15 minutes fucking later, they pull up to where we were sitting and drinking the beer at the strip mall, not strip mall, but for lack of a better term, the strip place. And they're like, "Were you guys down at such and such?" I'm like, "Wasn't me, officer." They drive up, and the lady looks right at me and points right at me, and he was one of them. So that was my story, and I'm just like, how many different ways could I have done that to be less stupid? And I've come to the conclusion that every way I could have done that to be less stupid. And
I just like visualizing you as a bald teenager doing this.
no,
I know you weren't, but
I-
it's so much funnier.
I looked a lot like Kiefer Sutherland when I was younger. Like I had the blonde hair. Yeah, you can probably see. I mean, a little bit, but anyway. So then I go to jail.
It looks like you look a little like Kiefer Sutherland if he had chemotherapy, and then went in remission and gained some weight back. I'm sorry, Zeus. That was across the line.
No, here's the fires for you across the bow. Here's the fucked up thing. He got arrested first, and he's the one that brought them to us. So he ratted everybody out.
Oh, what a dick move.
And wait, it gets better. So then I'm walking home from the cop shop because they're like, dude, it was alcohol. Just go be somewhere else. So I'm walking home, and who do I see walking down the street in my direction? But this motherfucker that ratted everybody out. It took every bit of self-control I ever had to not fucking, because there's ditches on Olmerton. I could have left them in a ditch and nobody would have seen them for a fucking week. But yeah, that's my story. I've got a couple others. They're usually behind bars and me like throwing my boot knife into the trash so I don't get arrested with that as well. But yeah, that's my jail story.
On Olmerton.
What's that?
On Olmerton. Yeah. A road I travel almost daily.
And but Olmerton is also the white trashiest of white trash strips of road in the Clearwater, St. Pete area.
No, it's actually now like a very developed like strip, like all the chains are on Olmerton.
Really? All right, I'm gonna have to check that out.
By the way, my grandmother died in a car accident on that road.
That's a sweet story.
Before I was born. I know.
Oh, well,
before I was born.
It was a shithole.
Yeah, it was a shithole back then.
My last memory of Olmerton was there's this movie theater, and then if you go a little further down, there's a roller rink. They're probably gone now. The movie theater's probably still there. And then just a litany of fucking strip clubs. And if they weren't strip clubs, they were like the ones where the girls dance in the window in lingerie. And
was this one of them? Oz?
Probably. My favorite strip club in Florida was Mons Venus.
Oh, that was the worst strip club I've ever gone to.
That's why I liked it. Because they had
public. They just gave you lap dances out in public, and I'm like, no. I'm not here for a lap dance. I'm here to pay extra to get fucked.
Don't candy coat it. You like sex. All right. So I think
this is your show, Zeus. So
we've been doing this long enough, as Jack would say. I think it's about time we wrap things up. This was fun. We should maybe be doing this more often. I just need to free up some time. Because if I could make money off this, I would just podcast all the time. Just have people listen and talk and fucking make sense sometimes, maybe not make sense some other times. Fucking get canceled sometimes, get promoted other times. I love podcasting. You're doing it. You're doing more than one show. I just got to get to a point where I have a little more free time. And I think we both know how I got to do that. But anyway, brother. If you want to shut it down, I'd say, yeah, we've done just about all we can.
Right. Make sure you check out part 1 of this show on the Jeff Macolino podcast. Subscribe to the Jeff Macolino YouTube channel. And
the Friends of Zeus podcast on YouTube.
Yeah. If you're not subscribed to the channel you're watching at this moment,
what
the hell's wrong with you?
Good point.
No. I'm going to say this.
I forgot we were on my show and not yours.
we're on your show, not mine. But you know how many of my YouTube analytics of videos that pop off and like 80% plus are non-subscribers? And it's like, why the hell don't you hit subscribe if you watch this video?
Right.
Come
You're
on,
already
man.
clicking on the fucking show.
Hit
What we need to do-
subscribe. What the hell's
Yeah, we
wrong
need-
with you?
We need to start a format where when you click on the show, you're subscribing.
I would like that
Done.
a lot. I would like that a lot. All
That
right.
would make it a lot easier. All right, brother.
Wrapping up, Friends of Zeus. Boom, it's over.